All right. Thanks everyone for joining in tonight from near and far. We're going to call tonight's Planning Commission meeting to order. And I'm going to identify this as a special virtual meeting of the Planning Commission, and we're calling it to order. There will be no flag salute tonight, so we're going to go right to the roll call.
Oh, yes, sir. Commissioner Bracken? I think I just saw him join. Commissioner Galka?
Here.
Commissioner Port?
Here.
Commissioner Prenevo?
Here.
Commissioner McLean?
Here.
Vice Chair Robertson?
Here.
And Chairman Savage?
Here.
Perfect.
All right. Before we start the public hearings, I'm just going to give a brief summary for those who aren't familiar with this process and how it's going to be. This is because of the coronavirus pandemic, for the public's health and the health of staff commissioners, we're going through this virtual public meeting, and I'll summarize the process we'll be following. It's going to be a two-part meeting. This is the first part of the meeting tonight, and the next part will be a week from tonight, which is June 24th at 6 p.m. So tonight, we will hear the staff report, we'll hear the applicant's presentation, and we'll hear I'm sorry, I'm getting some noise from Kelly. Are you able to do a mute?
I'm gonna mute all. And then, well, not responding at the moment, but oops. Did I just get kicked out?
No, you're there somewhere.
So I think we just got kicked out of it on the screen. Here we go. Sorry.
I think you're back in, Kelly. I can do the mute all too if you'd like.
Thank you, please, Andy.
Okay. Kelly, nod if you can hear me. All right. So tonight we're going to be hearing the staff report. Then we're going to hear the applicant speak, give their presentation. And then the Planning Commission will be able to ask questions of the staff and the applicant. Once this is complete, the public record will be kept open and the public hearing will be postponed to Wednesday, June 24th at 6 p.m. During the time between this meeting and next Wednesday, during the time between this meeting and 5 p.m. on Monday, the 22nd of June, 2020, the city will be accepting both written and verbal comment on the public hearing items. For verbal comment, a phone number has been provided in the public notice and can be viewed on the screen. After the deadline, city staff will compile all the received public comments and deliver them to the Planning Commission applicants and make available on the city's website, if possible, all the received public comments. The public hearing will then continue on June 24th at 6 p.m. For the next portion of the public hearing, staff will summarize all the public comments they received, and the applicant will be able to respond to those comments, and the Planning Commission will be able to ask any questions. On conclusion of the comments and questions to the applicant, the public hearing will be closed and the Planning Commission will deliberate and either render a decision or postpone the hearing to a date certain for further evaluation. Although this process is different than a traditional Planning Commission meeting, we still provide the public with an opportunity to participate and engage in the public hearing process. Does anyone have any questions on how this is going to work during the two-part meeting? All right. So we're gonna start the tonight's agenda with the first public hearing. This is planning file AR-20-05. This is from the Farm Worker Housing Development Corporation. Before I open that public hearing, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Kennedy for the procedures we will use following for the meeting tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think like last time, because the procedures are so much different based on the COVID, it's kind of been changed. So the procedures that we read into the record at a normal planning commission meeting probably aren't that applicable. I can go over, I mean, I think we've got them in writing that gets sent out to everybody so everybody knows what issues they have to raise, what are the applicable criteria, and there's no reason to go over the order of events. So unless somebody wants me to go through everything, I don't think it's necessary given that the record is complete and the process is complete and provided to everybody. Any problem with that?
No, that sounds good to me. Okay, then with that, we'll open planning file AR-20-05. Amongst the planning commissioners, says if there have been any ex parte contact or any conflict of interest.
Mr. Chair, I need to disclose there was a phone call from one of the neighbors to the project. Nothing of substance was talked about, mostly questions about the procedures. I encouraged him to write a letter if there was some concerns. I don't think it'll have, in fact, I can say it won't have any effect on my duty as a planning commissioner.
Okay, thanks, Don. Anything else? All right, then we will open the public hearing and turn it over to Mrs. Hart for the staff report.
Okay, can everybody see my screen now?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, so good evening. Before you tonight is an application for an administrative review for a 24-unit apartment complex at the end of Weldwood Drive. The subject parcel is 1.39 acres in size. And it looks like my screen's having some difficulties. Let me switch it over to the PowerPoint and see if we can go from there. Here we go. Let's just run it like this. Sorry, guys, technical difficulties, gotta love it. Okay, so the subject parcel is 1.39 acres in size and it's located at the end of Weldwood Drive and it's in the mixed use zone. The surrounding properties are various types of residential uses, including a mobile home park, a condominium complex, and single family homes located in the county as well. And to the north and east of the site are commercial uses within the Walmart shopping center, as well as some additional residential uses. In terms of the development proposal, the applicant is proposing to develop a 24-unit apartment complex. As indicated on the site plan, there would be one 3-story apartment building with a large open space to the west. The building would generally be located to the north of the project area and would be approximately 220 feet north of the nearest property line to the residences south of the project area. The open space area would be to the west and parking would be along the southern portion of the property. And the east side of the property is provided for the required turnaround area and additional open space for the gardening plots. For setbacks per the mixed use code, the residential mixed use standards would be utilized, residential mixed density standards would be utilized. Minimum setbacks include a 10-foot front, 20-foot rear, and 5-foot side setbacks. The development proposal conforms to these standards by observing an 18-foot front setback, 39-foot setback to the eastern property line, a 78-foot, wow, I'll get this going. A 78-foot rear setback to the southern property line and a 125-foot setback to the future property line to the west. In terms of density, to build the proposed 24 units consisting of 8 one-bedroom units and 16 two-bedroom units, the total land area required would be 1.02 acres, and the property is 1.39 acres, which meets the density thresholds. For open space, 25% of the project area must be designated for open space and landscaping. Of this area, at least 50% of that must be usable open space, and again, 25% of that must all be located in one area. As proposed, the applicant is providing over 29.5% of the site as landscaping. Of that, over 58% of the landscaping would be designated for usable open space, and over 25% of the usable open space is located in the western portion of the project area, therefore meeting those standards. For parking, the development code requires 2.25 vehicle spaces per unit. In addition, 0.5 spaces or half of a parking space per unit for bicycle purposes. In addition, the code identifies an earned parking reduction of up to 15% when additional covered and uncovered bicycle parking is provided. With the earned reduction, the minimum required parking for vehicles would be 46 spaces, and the minimum required bicycle parking would be 44 spaces, 24 of which would be uncovered and 20 would be covered. The development has proposed to meet this by providing 46 parking spaces along the internal driveway, and parking racks would be provided throughout the site to meet the 24 uncovered bicycle parking requirements, and then a total of 30 bicycle parking spaces for a covered area within a closet would be provided inside the building area. And just for clarification purposes, the application was originally submitted to include an application for a Class 2 variance for a parking reduction, and the Class 2 variance was actually included in the public notification process. However, after the notice, we have worked with the applicant to do minor modifications to the design to provide the additional parking required, as well as using the earned bicycle parking reduction to meet the code requirements. So as it's currently designed and displayed on the screen, the application does meet all of the required parking minimums per the code and is not subject to a Class 2 variance. Finally, for access and circulation, the site would be accessed from a single driveway on the new segment of Weldwood Drive. Currently, Weldwood dead ends at the property line, so at this area here, and to the east would be where it goes into Highway 20 and the Walmart shopping center area. The applicant would be extending Weldwood Drive through the property, and the property as a whole is much larger, and so it would extend through the rest of it for potential future phases of development, but it would not connect to any other street system at the northwest portion of the property. There's currently a private street called Weldwood Drive as well. We want to make sure it's understood that it would not connect to that street and thereby connect to any other part of the transportation system like Main Street. This would basically be a dead end with no other connection other than the current street segment by Walmart. So regarding traffic considerations, in addition, the development code sets the threshold for when a traffic impact analysis should be reviewed as part of consideration of the planning review. These criteria include triggering of over 300 daily trips per day. If the project is located near a major intersection on a highway and there's safety concerns regarding that intersection, and whether there's a change in zoning proposed or if the driveways proposed don't meet any of the vision clearance requirements. Based on these identified thresholds within the development code, this project does not trigger a transportation impact analysis for consideration as part of the planning process itself. However, it is understood that the proposal is considered as phase 1 of a larger development proposal, which would be presented to the Planning Commission at a future date. As such, although it's not required or conditioned as part of this current phase, a traffic impact analysis has been ordered for the overall development for consideration. Any identified improvements required as part of that TIA would be incorporated in any future development phases. And although we have not yet received the results of this traffic impact analysis, we have received preliminary information that this phase and this current development would not trigger any required improvements to the existing transportation system. And so with all of that, I would conclude my report and answer any questions.
So Kelly, I just wanted to clarify, there is no reduction from the minimum required parking spaces, correct?
Correct.
Anyone else have any questions for Kelly?
Hey, this is Samuel. I thought I had one about a letter that was written about the one access point, the one entry and one exit. But as you were reading along, it said that it met the development code to only have that one entrance as addressed in that letter. So I was kind of looking for that as well. But if it only needs that one, I think I'm good.
Yes, we've had the fire district review it, and they have not identified that any additional access is required, and they haven't conditioned one, and so they've signed off on that access point. And so with the development code and that sign off, there is no additional need for additional access.
Got it.
All right. Any other commissioners have questions or comments for staff? Okay, seeing none, then we'll move forward and give the applicant a chance to make any comments that they'd like to. Is the applicant with us tonight?
Yes, sorry, I was looking for my mute. Hi, everyone, I'm Claudia Cantu. Yes, well, you know, here at Farm Worker Housing Development Corporation, my executive director, Maria Elena Guerra, is on too. We're excited to be working with all of you guys, making Lebanon our next community to build affordable housing. We're happy to answer any questions. Our development team is on as well, our architects and our construction manager.
I have one question for you, and it's actually not related to this particular development. It'd be the future development. What's the potential location of that in relation to the property that is there now?
So this is Mark Rossi with Pinnacle Architecture. So Wellwood Drive, if you pull up one of the documents, I think it's C31, you can zoom into the little, there's a little box down there. And if you zoom into that, there's a parcel to the north between there and Walmart that would be developed into future apartments. And then towards that wetland, which is a little to the west, that's a different one, would be a similar development. Right now we're planning to be almost identical buildings and sizes, but and if I remember correctly, I don't have the figures right in front of me. Is it, Claudia, are we at 100 units or 110?
At 110 is what I remember.
Yeah.
If I can jump in really quickly on the screen, the area that he's talking about would be a direct connection to this open land, as you can see on the screen with my cursor area.
Yeah, and part of the development package that was actually submitted on, you probably don't have it up here, but it shows how it lays out a little more. And if you need me to, if you give me share, I can probably bring it up from my end.
Yeah, well, I want to make sure that we keep
Oh,
the discussion
yeah.
on just this application alone, but in general
point.
speaking, the development would be, the proposal would be an extension into this open area here.
Correct. With the extension of the Wellwood Drive kind of going at that same angle.
Yeah, and Weldwood would come along into this area, but it would dead end up here. It would not
Correct.
connect to any of the circuits here.
Okay, thank you.
Did I hear correctly that Wellwood Drive is a private drive?
So Weldwood Drive from Highway 20 dead ending into the property is a public street, but there is a private street at the northwest portion of it by the mobile home park, where that part is actually a private segment.
Any more questions for the applicant from the Planning Commission? I'm seeing none.
Yeah, and we're more than happy to share any information about our organization if the group wants to. Are you guys interested? Are you guys familiar with our organization?
We are not familiar, no.
So I can, unless Meg, you want to jump in, but we have been, so the Farm Worker Housing Development Corporation has been in existing for 30 years. Actually, this year will be our 30th anniversary. And we have 345 units underdeveloped already in the counties of Marion, mostly in Marion County and Polk County. Lynn County is our newest community. And we'll have a on-site property management that's Evolve Property Management, who manages all of our properties. So there'll be an on-site staff. And we provide a number of services on-site to our residents. We have 2 resident services coordinators as well that work with the local school districts. So in this case, we'd be working with the Lebanon School District, the Oregon Employment Department, the Lynn Benton Housing Authority, and Lynn County was chosen because, you know, it is one of a high poverty hotspot, and we felt it was our next best community to work in. Meg, do you want to add anything?
I'm very honored to be here. Thank you for inviting us to this meeting. Our website, if you want to see the conditions and how we're very proud of our projects, is www.fhdc.org. It's a very dynamic website. You can see all the programs that we provide to our residents. During this pandemic, we have been very active. You know, some of the things that we can report is that we never just go into a community just to provide a house. We are there to build a community. So we bring with us a series of services, or we connect families with services that they need. In the case of the pandemic, we have been very active with the governor's office in providing PPE equipment to our families and to our partners and staff. We also have provided an average of 1,200 food boxes to families in need. And for those families that has been impacted directly by the virus, we have been able to provide them with enough support for them to not go out of the house. We have been bringing to them food and any other services that they need. We provide them with rental assistance. You know, we are trying to make sure that the community has everything that they need to be successful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeremy, I do have a question for the applicant. I disclosed earlier that I had a phone call from one of the neighbors to the south And without him giving me any details, he just indicated that there was some concerns from that neighborhood. So my question to the applicant, has there been any effort to reach out to the neighborhood to the south? Has there been any meetings planned or anything of that nature to understand what the concerns are?
So this is really early on in the project that we're beginning. And we typically, what FHDC has done in the past is that we do tend to get together with our neighbors, because as Meg stated, we're not there just to build and leave. We're there to stay and create a community. That is something that is planned for. When, I'm not exactly sure because of the pandemic and all that. But it's definitely something that we want to encourage our neighbors to come and talk to us. If there's something that we're able to build into the project during the construction that will help all of us, because we're going to be all in this together, by all means, we can talk and see if we can make it happen. But yes, it's something that we typically do in our projects.
Yeah, I attest to that too. Is typically we'd be having a meeting probably anytime right now, but with the pandemic, it's kind of hard to have one of those meetings. So we're kind of the way we normally would operate is not going the same way.
Right.
But
if
the members have any suggestions for us to try to do this in the middle of this pandemic without putting anybody in any jeopardy, we will definitely consider your comments. I mean, you know your community more than we do at this point. And if you have any suggestions for us in how to better approach the community that is going to be around this area, we will be, very happy to hear you guys.
I'm curious,
Thank you.
have you been able to provide a link to a website or either in correspondence through email with the neighbors? Has that been able to be put together?
As of right now, no, but I have received some calls from the neighbors, and I've directed them to our website and provided, spoken to them at great length about our programs and what we're doing and things like that to provide comfort.
Okay, so you have had dialogue then. That's what I guess I was asking. Okay.
Oh yes, no, the community has reached out. I've received phone calls.
Okay.
I've got a quick question.
Todd, I'm sorry, Simon. Can I go back to Todd?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Todd, is your suggestion that we should have this in our website so people can go and see the process that we are going into, and that would be an opportunity for them to observe? Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I will try to discuss with the architect and see how we're gonna be able to put that in our website. At the end, we are a nonprofit. Our website is really dynamic, but I want to see how much we can do. But thank you for the comment. It's a really good idea.
Right. Yeah. Most time, when there's concerns, it's because of either lack of information or struggle to get it. So all those things could be probably set aside if that was available to them.
I mean, it's short term, but I mean, would it behoove us to put a project sign out there, future home of whatever, and with a little sign up there with your website at the bottom? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Samuel, did you have a question for the applicant?
Yeah, just real quick. I want to know if you guys were working with any of the local commissions within Lebanon, maybe the senior housing. Are you working with other, you said something about resident services. That's great. Are you working with CASA of Oregon? Or are you doing 4% low income tax credits? Are you working with other benefactors to build this? And I mean, farm workers housing is great, but do you guys have a team you're working with within Lebanon to reach out to the community and other partners that can help you establish those resident services? is it just you, or do you guys have a big team outside of you and your architect to really help the community come together on this one?
Great question, Samuel. So we have, since we started this work in Lebanon about a year ago, I can't remember. It's been, Mark, has it been a year? It's been a while. We have been working at FHDC really hard because, again, Lebanon is a new community for us, and we want to make sure that we want to make a good impression. So we reached out to the Lynn County, the Lynn Benton Housing Authority, which was our #1 partner at that point. Again, because when we submitted the NOFA application to Oregon Housing, we had to partner with somebody. So we went to them. We've got the, I'm looking at my notes here, the Oregon Legal Aid, the Lynn Benton Community College, the Lynn County School District, the Boys and Girls Club, there's a number of organizations, because as we were developing this, and yes, you mentioned Casa of Oregon, we do have a development consultant on this project, and they are part of the development team. But we wanted to make sure that when we submitted the application that we don't want to just build just to build, but there's a resident services component that our state funding agency requires us to have. And so in order for us to beef up our resident services, we had to understand the community and what community members were out there. So we began to, organize the area, who's out there, who can help us. Because we're not just looking at this, while this application is only for the 24 units, we're looking at partners that are going to be in the long run for the future of phase 2. And one other key partner that I failed to mention was the Good Samaritan. They're also a key partner of us that we're talking about how can we integrate health services into our projects to be able to bring the services better, the health services to our tenants.
All right, thank you. Does anyone else have any questions for the applicant before we put this one on pause for a week? All right. Seeing
Chairman.
none, then I'm going to move to continue the hearing to a date certain of June 24th at 6 p.m. and leave the record open to receive public comment until 5 p.m. on Monday, June 22nd.
Just one last comment can I make? I'd like to thank Kelly. Oh, go ahead. For all your hard work.
Agree, Mark. Thank you. Kelly has been awesome.
If we can continue on with the motion, please.
Yeah, we'll continue with the motion. Does anyone want to make a second on that?
I'll second it.
And that was Dawn.
Yeah.
Dave.
Oh, Dave. Thanks, Dave. All right. So all in favor of that, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, that sounds like a unanimous vote. All right, so we will pick this back up a week from now, June 24th at 6 p.m. The record will remain open for public comment until 5 p.m. Monday, June 22nd.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Yes, thank you for joining. We'll see you next week.
Thanks.
Okay, next hearing item. This is planning file AR-20-02. This is Prism Manor LLC. Be operating on the same format that we just used. So unless Trey needs to say anything else, I'm going to ask for ex parte contact or conflict of interest. All right. Looks like none. So we'll open the public hearing and I'll turn it over to Kelly for the staff report.
Okay, good evening again. So before you tonight is an administrative review application for a 48-unit apartment complex located at the northwest corner of Russell and Franklin. Okay. The subject property is 2.08 acres and is in the residential mixed-use zone. The surrounding properties are residential in nature for the most part. So to the north and east are single-family residential homes, and to the west, across the railroad tracks, is vacant property, also within the residential mixed-density zone. And to the south is also a vacant parcel in that same zone. In terms of the development, we're gonna go through this similar to what we did on the last one. 48-unit apartment complex. On the site plan, you can see it's separated into three-story buildings. There's also an office and storage, 2 storage buildings. For the setbacks, the minimum requirement includes a 15-foot front setback, 10-foot street side setback, 5-foot side setback, and a 20-foot rear. And as shown on the site plan, all of those are being met. On Russell Drive, it would be the 10-foot street side. On Franklin, it's the front, so 15 feet. The northern property line is more than 5 feet. And then the oddly shaped property line that you can see here is the rear property line, and they're maintaining at least a minimum 20-foot setback for that. There's a lesser setback requirement for the storage buildings up here, which they're meeting the minimums for that setback as well. For the density, it's proposed to be 24 one-bedroom units and 24 two-bedroom units, which requires 1.95 acres to meet the minimum density. The site is 2.08 acres, which means that they're within the density that's permissible. For open space, the requirement is 25% of the total project area for open space and landscaping. Within that 25%, at least 50% of that would be usable open space. And within that, at least 25% of it needs to be located in one location. As proposed, it would be 31.7% of the site would be landscaped. Of that, 59% of it is designated as usable. And of that, over 25% of it is located in this portion here that you see on the screen, on the northern part of the property, and the children's play area is also located in that. For parking, the requirement is 2.25 spaces, plus a half of a space for a half of a bicycle parking space per unit. That would equate to 108 vehicle parking spaces and 24 bicycle parking spaces. And in the parking field that you see on the screen, they're providing 108 spaces. And then there would be bike racks throughout the property to provide the additional 24 bicycle spaces. Finally, in terms of traffic and circulation, the site would be accessed from the 2 driveways located along Franklin Street to provide the internal circulation for parking as well as appropriate fire access. With regards to the proposed site driveway placements on Franklin Street, the driveways are shown on the site plan to satisfy the city's access and spacing requirements as a collector roadway. However, city staff does note that the proposed southernmost driveway, so this one here, is fairly close to the intersection of Russell and Franklin. And there is anticipated future traffic growth along Franklin Street that may impact the southernmost driveway as a function of queuing and operation. And as such, the city, without any conditioning or required access or action by the Planning Commission, we would still reserve the right to impose any future turning movement limitations on that driveway. For example, to make it a right out only and no entrance into that driveway to make sure that it doesn't provide any safety issues. And then again, similar to the last application, the development code provides thresholds for requirements for traffic impact analysis. This application does not meet those thresholds as identified in the development code to trigger a TIA. And as this is a singular project with no future phases, one has not been required as part of the planning process for this application. Again, that concludes my staff report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Hey, Kelly, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, now you said the city reserves the right to restrict access to the southern driveway.
Correct.
Okay, all right, I'm just making sure I heard you right.
Yeah.
Anybody else? All right, then I'll invite the applicant to introduce themselves and give us their presentation.
Hi, this is Matt Johnson. I'm representing Studio 3 Architecture and the owner, Prism Manor. I don't believe we have anything to add to Kelly's report. It was thorough and says about all that needs to be said for the project, which is pretty straightforward when looking at it from the perspective of the Lebanon Development Code.
All right. Any commissioner questions for the applicant?
I have a quick question, Jeremy. This is Samuel. So, Kelly had mentioned that we reserve the right to, make them only turn right. And I think that's a great idea, right? Because turning left at that little spot's going to be not good. So turning right and making a do not enter is a smart move. So is there any way that we can have the applicant agree to do that now, or do we just wait?
Well, the reason for potentially restricting the movement is that there's future plans to possibly add a right turn only lane to Franklin onto Russell. So my understanding is at that time is when it would become a safety concern, and that's when we would make the move to restrict the access. So based on an analysis from a traffic engineer that we had a few months ago, there wasn't concern regarding the distance of the southern drive from the center of Russell Drive. So at this time, we're not planning to do that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Looks like none. So once again, I'll move to continue this hearing to a date certain of June 24th at 6 p.m. We're going to leave the public record open to receive public comment until 5 p.m. on Monday, June 22nd. Do I have a second?
I will second that.
Thank you, Todd. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, that motion carries unanimously. We'll pick this up again in a week, and the public record will remain open until 5 p.m. Monday, June 22nd. And thanks again to the applicant for meeting with us tonight.
Yep, thank you, Jimmy and Kelly.
Okay, next item. Let me get my bearings here. Next item is planning file A-20-03. This is an annexation. Same procedure will apply as before for the format, and I'll ask the commissioners if there's been any ex parte contact or conflict of interest. All right, seeing none, we'll move forward and go back to Kelly for the staff report.
Hello again. I do have a presentation with a picture of the area if you guys need it, so let me know if you'd like me to pull it up, but it's fairly straightforward. This property is at 820 West Oak Street. It's located on the south side of Oak between 9th and 10th. The property is 0.21 acres in size, has street frontage on Oak, and the property is to the north and east including the public right-of-way, are within city limits, therefore it's eligible for annexation. Properties located in a developed and urbanized residential neighborhood. To the north and east are residential properties in the city limit with the residential mixed density zoning. To the south and west are residential properties in the county unincorporated area, but within the UGB with a residential mixed density comprehensive plan designation. The subject site is currently improved as an existing single-family residence. The sewer, water, and storm drainage is available along the property frontage in Oak Street. And there's no development proposed as part of the application. The applicant's proposing the annexation in order to connect to the city sewer system. And on March 11th of this year, at a council meeting, the council approved an emergency connection to the sewer system with the correct requirement that the property be annexed into the city, which is why we're here. And so based off of all that information and the site already being urbanized, it is eligible for annexation. And so with that, I'd conclude my report and answer any questions.
All right, I'm seeing no questions. Is the applicant here tonight? If he wants to make any comments? And if there's no obligation to make any comments. I wasn't sure if the applicant was with us tonight or not.
I don't see them.
Okay.
Jeremy, I guess I do have a question.
Yeah.
In a case like this, where it's, in my opinion, pretty much a slam dunk, would we have to wait until the 24th to make a motion?
Unfortunately, technically, yes, because of the way that the public notice is identified. It does provide for comments. And so, yes, it adds time, but we need to do it.
Thank you.
All right, if there's no further questions for staff, and the applicant doesn't wish to make any more questions or comments, then I move to continue this public hearing to a date certain of June 24th at 6 p.m. and leave the record open to receive public comment until 5 p.m. on Monday, June 22nd.
Second.
I think you had 2 seconds there. We go with Dawn's?
Sure.
Okay. All right, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. All right, that motion carries unanimously. This public hearing will continue on June 24th at 6 p.m. and the record will stay open to receive public comment until 5 p.m. Monday, June 22nd. All right, last public hearing tonight. Planning file A20-02. This is an application by the city for an annexation of various street segments. Has there been any ex parte contact or conflict of interest? All right, seeing none, I will turn it over to Kelly for the staff report.
Thank you. This one is all Ron's fault. So under consideration is a proposed annexation of various street segments within the urban growth boundary into the city. And this includes portions of Airport Road near Airway, Airport Road near Cypress Court, 12th Street at F Street, Cascade Drive near Crowfoot Road, Residential Drive near Franklin Street, and portions of Walton Street. As annexations have occurred throughout the city, some applications have included annexation of the public right-of-way in front of it, some have not. And so this has kind of resulted in a patchwork of city and county jurisdiction throughout the street network. Basically, this would clean that up, and it would organize the jurisdictional boundaries of the city that will assist in enforcement action for our police and sheriff's departments to allow the local police department to better enforce parking restrictions throughout the city. And as the streets are not assigned a zoning designation, the only action under consideration is the land annexation. So there won't be an initial zoning assignment here. That concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
right, I see no questions. Since you represent the city, and are you the applicant, or do we need to have Ron come in front of the screen?
It's Ron's fault, so we can have him talk if you really want him to.
It's up to the applicant. I'm just here for you guys, really.
What's your question, Chairman?
Do you want to speak?
I was just wondering if the applicant wanted to speak.
No, I think our wonderful planning director has covered this topic quite well.
Perfect.
We have that recorded, right?
It's in the record. Okay, then with that, I move to continue the hearing to a date certain of June 24th at 6 p.m. Leave the record open to receive public comment until 5 p.m. on Monday, June 22nd.
Second.
Thank you, Samuel. Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Okay, that motion carries unanimously. So this public hearing will continue on June 24th at 6 p.m. The public record is remaining open to receive public comment until 5 p.m. on Monday, June 22nd. All right, that's the final public hearing for tonight's Planning Commission meeting. Is there any commission business and/or comments? Are we having a meeting? Do we have one scheduled for July?
We currently do. If all works out the way it's supposed to, we'll have another 4 items on the July meeting. And if all works out the way we hope, and there's no major changes on the pandemic side of the equation, we are hoping to be able to do the meeting as regularly scheduled at the travel station, if that is acceptable to all of you.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that would be way better than this.
Yeah.
Hopefully it works out.
Yeah. Okay.
Anything else? All right. Before I adjourn the meeting tonight, I just want to remind everyone that's watching this from the outside that you have the opportunity to provide comments, and the phone number should be displayed on screen at some point, and we'll make it available on the city website as well. Your comments are due June 22nd on 5 p.m. That is June 22nd, Monday at 5 p.m. Those are when your public comments are due. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. If there's nothing further, we will adjourn tonight's meeting, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you, Jeremy.
All right, meeting is adjourned.